The restaurant industry has been going through the tallest, fastest, twistiest, most inverted roller coaster ride in decades, and maybe even forever. Reports are showing losses over 90%, and restaurateurs, their teammates, and hungry folks are looking for answers. Welcome to the Fervent 4. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? What's up, everyone? I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Out from the Crowd. And with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org.
Hey, Zach, how's it going?
What's up, Tim? Thanks for joining us. The Fervent 4 is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to mark your calendars for this gem. It's dedicated to sharing insights into the world. It's dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. Follow along and share your thoughts and journey with us. Use hashtag Fervent4. That's FERVENTFOUR. Bam! With restaurants in seating options thrown out, many simply have closed. Hungry owners and staffs have had to get clever with their delivery skills. Today we have Chef Chris Hill with us. Chris is the author of Making the Cut, two-time TEDx speaker, chef cook, podcaster, and he has an 8.1 out of 10 on his knife skills. You can check him out at chrishillonline.com. The Fervent 4 is powered by the SBDC, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling and resources like this show. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help you out, just ask. Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. What's up, fellas?
Guys, good to see you.
Good to see you, Chris.
Your knife skills, 8 out of 10?
I'm not sure who's counting, but have you seen my TikTok videos yet? Chef Chris Hill on TikTok. Go follow me and find out.
Yeah. The real question here is, how do you turn an apple into apple juice in 2 minutes, right?
All right. You like that one, huh?
At first, well, explain what happened, because at first I was like, what in the world is going on? Because that is not apple juice.
So I'm a little bit, this kind of ties into all we're going to be talking about, but I'm a little bit behind the curve with TikTok. And there's all these new trends that are happening on TikTok, so you have to kind of keep up with things. Well, someone found out that like the little mini apple juice, Martinelli apple juice bottles, they're plastic. They look like glass, but they're plastic. You bite it, and it sounds exactly like an apple. Like literally, and you can go look at it right now on YouTube or my page, whatever. And anyway, my brother-in-law and I came up with a little fun way of trying to go viral with it. So yeah,
very cool. Yeah, I saw that last night as you told me, hey, you should go look at my TikTok videos. They're great. And I, for one, have never posted anything on TikTok. I do think that people are super creative. My favorite thing on TikTok is the it's a thing that your family actually did recently, Tim. There's some really creative things on there.
The Olympics?
No, it's not the Olympics. What is that?
The dances, the different dances that are.
Oh yeah. The blinding lights from The Weekend. Yeah, it goes like this, right? So you gotta do like dab to start, and then you do like this, and then I think you swim, and then you're running in.
Right.
Like maybe you'll see us do that. I don't know. Who knows? But
let's hope not.
Yeah.
That'll be our new intro.
So Chris, as you heard, it'll be our new intro. Just hello everyone. We're doing watch out and look for that. If you guys have questions, by the way, simply ask them in the comments. Chris, I know you've been associated with the restaurant world for, I guess in theory we could say your entire life, but really, what, 15 years or so?
Yeah, my first restaurant job when I was in high school, done a little bit of everything. Jumped in full time after college and grad school and everything about maybe 12 years ago, something like that. But you worked, making beer money on the weekends through college, and I've always kind of been a part of it. So yeah.
So have you ever seen anything as dramatic or drastic or as wild as what we're going through now?
No, I see it through the lens of a restaurant guy, but I think we all are seeing it, fill in the blank for whatever industry it might be. And I think the restaurant industry, hospitality industry, you throw hotels in there, has been hit hardest to probably anybody. So yeah, it's uncharted territories, and I think there's a lot of folks that are trying to figure out, how to make things work and one of the hardest things, I think, is not knowing kind of where the end in sight is. So yeah.
Who do you think's leading the charge right now? Who's the most innovative that you've seen?
So Chef Jose Andres he's the one that went down to Puerto Rico and fed like 5 million meals or something like that. And he was a chef and saw an opportunity. He's doing the same thing here, which I think is pretty cool. I think one of the biggest things people can try and do is give back. Right now, if you can't really, if your hands are tied business wise, well, all right, well, we're still here. We still have time to fill. How can we help other people? But the guys out in Canlis out in Seattle, they were one of the first few folks. They high end, a bunch of James Beard awards. They said, all right, well, we can't obviously serve fine dining food to people, so we're gonna utilize the resources we have here. They did a drive through for burgers. They have one of their I think one of their behind the scenes people is a really good baker. They did bagels for breakfast and found new ways to kind of take care of the needs of their customers, but also found ways to give customers what they want. And I think at the end of the day, like y'all can probably agree, I think we want to be a part of the community as much as possible, especially when we're stuck at home all day. So I think there's a lot of cool ways we can try and innovate. Yeah.
So what's interesting, I've seen you post a little bit about some of this, and more directly on companies that are doing something that is unique, but not camouflaging themselves, right? So I believe I coined the term camouflage marketing, which is where I
like that. A little self-plug there.
Well, I mean, I think I did. And so therefore I'm going to continue to let the world know that I do. But camouflage marketing is basically where all marketing looks the same, right? And then at some point in that camouflage marketing, it's kind of a second part, right? So it's like a Black Friday ad, right? So all these Black Friday ads come out. And then at some point, people actually get pissed off at the ad because they get annoyed that they're seeing it so frequently. And I think a lot right now, people are seeing a very similar ad around coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we're calling it this week, since apparently we'll probably see a third name come out soon. I'm sure. That's a joke. But you're seeing a lot of restaurants and people say, we're here for you and things like that. And it seems like at this point, there's a lot of reaction like, oh, so-and-so did this. Now we need to make sure that we get our ad out there instead of actually having something meaningful and different about it. Is there a message or is there a brand out there right now that you're seeing put out really in food or not from a national ad campaign? Are you seeing a company that's doing something from a commercial standpoint that is really resonating with you, good and bad? Are you seeing anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, like you said, the camouflage is the perfect word for it, because a lot of it really starts to look the same and feel the same. It's all kind of supposed to make you feel good and everything. I think Zach, you and I were chatting about like Uber Eats. I think it was Grubhub. One of those.
We're gonna get to that, so you don't have
where like the message is beautiful, right? It's like, oh, we love restaurants, they're fabric of our community. Like, let's take care of them. And nice music in the background. And we all know, if you think about it for 2 seconds, that's to get new customers and to get customers that are obviously using their services a lot more than they did before. So if I can get them right now, maybe I have a customer for life. So it's, for me, being a marketing guy by trade, kind of a long time ago at least, I can kind of see right through that type of stuff. I think one of the things to think about too is marketing. Okay, for like right now, so how are we going to get through the next month, 2 months, 2 weeks, whatever it is? But also, all right, well, once these things do open back up, how can we be top of mind for our consumers and customers in a way that we're going to be able to kind of hit the ground running?
Gotcha. I don't know if there's a couple of things that I thought have been interesting. You and I did an interview similar to this, maybe even a month ago. And I think at that point we were talking about family plates was the thing that a lot of people were doing. And that's interesting. And I think also probably from a efficiency standpoint, it was cheaper for them to actually do that too. So good on those who are doing kind of family style plates where it's like families of 4 and that it could get big stuff out like that. Now I'm seeing stuff where people are doing pantry style, where I guess they have a lot of extra food that are in their kitchens and stuff like that. Are you seeing restaurants that are selling pantry style stuff? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, live another day. Whatever you can do to get some revenue coming in, I think it's the answer. I don't think the biggest concern is necessarily, rent, which we're at the end of the month right now. Rent's coming up. I assume there's going to be some forgiveness type situations with landlords, but I think the biggest thing is being able to take care of your employees. How can you set it up in a way where we at least have enough revenue to take care of the people that have been here, that need money, that we want to support because they've supported us.
Tim?
How important? One of the things that's fascinating is we continue to preach over and over and over again about knowing numbers, inventory levels, that kind of thing. And now this is a situation where it's really coming back to bite people. No pun intended. So what advice do you have in terms of keeping inventory on stock so that you can limit the cost of goods sold and yet offer the amount, the same menu options? Are you recommending that restaurants limit the menu options in order to be more effective and efficient?
Tim, that's a really good point. And there's another question I saw actually in
from Travis.
That's related, but kind of on a different realm. Maybe we can touch on that here in a second. But
sure.
Yeah, I think Tim, I think it's a really sound point. How can we be as cost effective as possible? How can we trim away the fat wherever we possibly can, right? So whatever that looks like. But yeah, absolutely. Limiting inventory, especially when you think of like fresh products, because at the end of the day, like most of these restaurants are going to have to open back up full scale at some point, and there's gonna be a couple $1,000s at least worth of starting inventory you're gonna have to buy as well. So knowing that, like,
great point.
There's
what's interesting too is something that was just across the street from you when you had Three-Way. Is I remember when Three-Way D-Egg Diner started juicing, right? And they implemented juice. And so people would be like, oh, that was the hot new trend. And while that might be true, I remember Phil Decker telling me, well, actually, we were able to juice some of the stuff that would have spoiled that we couldn't put on food that way, but we could actually juice it because it was still in the, I don't know, I'm in the realm of being safe, but
right.
They could juice it. And so, it's thinking about stuff like that, right? It's like, okay. And I've seen there's restaurants that have like no waste products, right? And so it's get back to your roots and really think about stuff where it's like, okay, what can I do here? Yeah, like I could do it this way and have a lot of waste, or I could really promote that we are doing a no waste piece. And that actually, if we're thinking about the camouflage marketing side of it, that can be the thing that's different because no one else is doing that at this point. I haven't seen a single message about that. All I've seen is, hey, we're open. We're here for you. Please freaking buy from us. 50,000 tacos sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one really good way to market would be, all right, especially if you're like a local kind of farm to table type restaurant where you're supporting local farms, they're obviously having challenges right now too. So if you can kind of create or keep them or include them in the marketing message, now the customer feels like, oh, well, I'm supporting Chris's restaurant, but I'm also supporting this farmer that lives down the street from me as well.
So going back to Travis's question about let's get the exact wording. How serious could the rumored food shortage be for hospitality industry? And then also I want you to talk a little bit about the plant-based stuff in there that we had talked about before. Like, is that an actual option that people can go through, or do you feel that they're kind of the same thing, or they're both going to get hurt?
Let's touch on Travis's, then maybe you can re-articulate that question. But yeah, I think Travis. Now, explain again because
I get it. It's fine.
But yeah, I think. From what I've seen, it's I saw Georgia's trying to kind of reopen, but they have a huge chicken processing plant that had to close back down. I could see at least for a couple of weeks of a lag whenever the supply gets really low of us across the board all having issues, whether it's grocery stores or restaurants. Now we say, well, oh, there's not as many people going to restaurants. Yeah, but there's more people going to grocery stores now. So that supply. The supply doesn't change, right? So right. I think that's it's going to definitely be an issue. Up in South Dakota, Iowa, those huge plants that I think they supply like 20% or 25% of the pork products here in the U.S. I mean, those are huge numbers. So there'll be a shortage, and I think we'll also see a spike in prices as a result. Supply and demand.
So is there an option there for? Does it matter? Is factory basically the constant then in that? Where you and I had talked about how in Q3 and Q4 of 2019, the plant-based movement really made some big strides, Impossible and Beyond and stuff like that. But it sounds like the constant in all of this is a factory. And so you're not going to remove a factory, or the factory is going to stay in there. And so you're still going to see that kind of issue no matter the type of product that's in there. Or what do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Beyond Beef, or Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, those are products that are still, somewhat fresh. They have a little bit longer lifespan than a piece of cut up chicken or beef or pork, whatever. But yeah, the same issues. I think the issue is not the actual product, but it's actually getting it to the consumers.
It's what with the consumers?
Getting it to the consumers.
Getting it. Got it.
Yeah. What have you guys seen that you like?
So someone asked me that question. It took me a while to figure that out. There's two things that I like. Number one is Facebook Kids. I think that's great. So I have a 10-year-old sister, and we basically talk on the phone when I call my dad, basically, right? And she'll get on the phone. But now she has a Facebook Kids account, and so she'll message me, or we'll do audio chats or video calls and stuff like that. And so it's kind of cool that my 10-year-old sister has this capability to do that, right? And I guess it's very closely monitored by the parents of that account, which is pretty cool. And then the other thing that I have liked was the 7 o'clock pot beating thing. Have you seen that? I'm not exactly sure what who the brand is, but like at 7 p.m., I guess for the medical people and the first responders and all those people, you beat the pots. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was just interesting. It got my attention, but those are the two that that I've thought of.
Good intentions. A good way to try and annoy the people that you're around every second of the day even more, right? Clank, clank, clank.
I guess, but also those people don't get the notoriety.
No, I agree. I'm just messing around. Tim, what are your thoughts? Yeah.
No, I think that now is the time to try something new. I mean, it's really the wild, wild west out there, and since there's no standard, so to speak, for all the people that are running businesses, try it. And if it doesn't work, stick with it for a little bit, and if it doesn't, pivot and move on. But you got to do whatever you can. Which leads me to a question that I have: how do you keep the loyalty during this break with your customers to make sure that when doors open, that they do come back?
Yeah, well, and that's the biggest thing, because once things open back up, we have no really idea how if people are going to I can't wait to go back out, or if people are going to be a little bit hesitant. I think it'd probably be a little bit of both. I think the younger demographics will probably skew towards, let me go out and get some drinks and some food and hang out and see my friends. The older demographics might be a little bit more cautious as things kind of open back up. Either way, what can we do to make sure that we are top of mind, that we're the place that people actually want to go? Because if you have one chance to go to a restaurant the first time things open back up, why is somebody going to pick you, right? Will they pick you? And if not, then they're picking your competitors or somebody else. So, what can we do now to ensure that? I mean, one thing you can do, and it's a little bit more tactical than strategic, is you try and sell gift cards, $50 for $100 worth of gift cards to get some revenue coming in, and those are some customers will at least come back in the future. Now, obviously, that's not going to be a ton of revenue down the road, but it's still kind of top of mind for those types of customers. I think that's the biggest thing I can think of right off the top of my head.
Donna Ord, who you and I both know, I don't know if you know her, Tim, but what's up, Donna? How are you? Says, look at what Pizza Bella Vista is doing. They are doing family meals, raw pizza dough, all the ingredients with different recipes attached. Huge. That's great. I mean, I agree. I think stuff like that is very interesting.
I saw too, like the Canlis brothers, Canlis, which they've been around for like 70 years, like one of the class act restaurants in the country, really all about company culture and taking care of their employees. And a couple things they've done is kind of similar to what Donna you're saying is they've I think I might be wrong, but they've either created like menus for how to cook it, or they've actually created videos that when you get home you can watch. All right, so like here's how you actually make it, or it's like they'll text you, hey, your order is ready. Go ahead and turn the oven on when you leave the house. And they're also doing a live, I don't know if it's a piano stream, but it's a live music stream to kind of, all right, this is dinner time. Like turn off the news, like spend some time with your family, and it kind of creates a little bit of, all right, you can't actually be in the restaurant, but a little bit of that kind of ambiance and feel that is maybe the kind of the next best thing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And
that's something. I mean, that's something, or like what Don is saying, like just thinking outside the box. So those things, like doing a live stream,
that doesn't have to change though either, right? Just because we're here, right? Like
no, it doesn't. And it didn't cost any money, right? Like there's a lot of ways to be innovative without cost, without being a dime.
Well, when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, I joined this wine of the month club called Wink. Which was called Club W like 10 years ago, probably not that long ago. But in it, when you got the box of wine, it would give you recipes that paired with this thing. Now, it wasn't as intuitive as what you're saying, but like that doesn't have to go away, right? These family meals doesn't have to go away. And honestly, maybe restaurants will find a way to make more money this way and to be promoting it that way, which is actually good for them. And so I think we have to be thinking about that from the perspective of the new norm, second most overused word during all of this, right? Like we're probably never going back to that old way, right? Not for a very long time. So you can hope and wait for that day to come back, or you can roll with the punches. And if things slowly roll into that other stuff, then maybe you can look at that. But like, I think we have to be evolving and innovating in these pieces, because if not, what happens is you're waiting for those doors to open. And when those doors don't ever open, or to the quantity that you want, you're SOL. And I think a lot of people need to address that and realize that, like, hey, like we may never go back to that. It's likely that we never go back to that exact thing, right? And even when doors open, I was just reading this article about in China where doors are open, no one's going out, right? So it's going to be a slow bell curve getting people to go back out. Right. So don't just think that because things are open that your doors are going to open at the frequency that they once did.
Well, and
that was a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Tim.
No, that was a question that I had. I was just going to ask Chris. Is do you see that there being a second wave to this? Because I read something yesterday that beer sales are through the roof, and as people are home and they can drink a beer for $1, $2 a beer at home, are people going to be rushing to go out to a restaurant to pay $10 a beer or $15 a drink? How are they going to get people back into?
But don't you think that's already happening? Like, I mean, look at a football game, right? Stadiums are already being built with tens of thousands of less people, right? We've gone to this experience-based world, and everyone's already online. I mean, you got hashtags Netflix and chill and things like that. Like, I mean, that's kind of the world that we're already going to. And so I made this point the other day that, yes, this is unfortunate that what we're going through, but a lot of this is the quadrant 3 and 4 of the bell curve that are finally getting forced to move into this stuff that's already happening. And so, yes, I think people wanted it to be slower, but like
and that's the big point of the show.
Yeah.
Is that while there's a downturn, people need to start thinking about this stuff so that they can be prepared. So when things ease up, that they're ready to hit the ground running.
Well, and to Tim, what your point, and Zach, kind of yours as well, is so once things open back up, we'll see what happens, but I know for a fact, and like just take my restaurant Three-Way, we were open, for 8 years, whatever it was. And we do from 11 to 1:30, we do 150 people. Maybe 15 to 20% of that was to go type stuff, whether it's people picking it up or delivery. I can't even start to get through my mind how we would be able to do that volume, all delivery and takeout. It seems really logistically almost impossible. So then you look at, all right, well, if you go towards more like you're saying, Tim, I can buy a beer for, I can buy a 6-pack of beer for, $8, whatever, or $10 if it's, nice craft beer that I know, Zach, you love. But I can buy, 2 at the restaurant. I can buy, 6 at home. The same thing idea with food, right? So the margins are way down for, the food that people are coming to pick up. You're not, for Canlis, who's used to having like a $200 person or $100 a person type check, they're getting maybe $30.
Because you're anticipating the booze on that.
Well, no, I mean you're selling a filet mignon that part of the value of paying $40 for a steak or $60 for a dry aged steak or whatever it might be is the ambiance, the experience, and all that kind of stuff. So naturally, like there's a less a value proposition if I'm the consumer. So now the margins are lower. So I have to have that much more sales to actually make ends meet, which is going to be hard to do. So, I mean, I think the bread and butter will have to be experiences and getting people back in the doors as
but
restaurant
the model is there, right? Like to do takeout only. Now, and look, obviously I want these restaurants to go back to sit down, full capacity on those things. I just want people to start pondering, well, what if that never comes back, right? And there's clearly carry out and delivery focused, pizza and Chinese basically, right? So there might be revamping of stores that is necessary to go through, but like be thinking, okay, like, hey, this might be what we have to do if we want to stay afloat. And if you don't start thinking about those questions now, well, I think we all understand what potentially could be there. Daniel Gerard says, has social media made a real difference in sales for restaurants during this time? Do you feel restaurants are paying more attention to developing their social media following now more than previously before COVID? And what, if any, changes do you see coming in the future in terms of restaurant customers' relations to building their following? So basically, social media and restaurants. What do you think about that?
I think a lot of restaurants are. I'm not sure if this touches on what he was really going after, but I think the biggest opportunity is maybe getting some sales to keep things going. But more than that, I think, is what can we do to kind of build the brand loyalty in this time? How can we create value in other ways or get in front of other people that you might not even know about us in new, unique ways? So I think that's one of the things that kind of comes across to me. Now, in terms of restaurants that are maybe doing it well, I'm not sure that I'm seeing actual social media strategies doing it well. I'm seeing a lot of the same kind of strategies for putting it out there to customers. Here's a way you buy gift cards or the delivery type stuff. Changing the actual delivery of the product, but not as much social media wise. I think there's an opportunity though. Tim, do we lose Zach?
No,
there he is.
It looks like he's back.
I would say, Tim, what are your thoughts?
So, so one of the things I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs struggle with is the fear of over posting, oversharing, over communicating. And this is a time, in my opinion, more than ever, that not everyone is going to see every post that you have, and that you can't be afraid of oversharing because everyone is competing for that space. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Chris.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Tim. And I think maybe the biggest opportunity is showing. I think a lot of people are actually doing a really good job of this, and is showing the humanity of what your business is about. What is it that we believe? Why should you care about us? And showing the stories of your food or your how you guys came to be and how important community is to you, and maybe it's your farmers and how important that community is to you, and how much important your employee community is to you. So all these ways that you can still touch on the idea of community without having that community together. So I think kind of letting people know like what you're about, showing the human side of what your business is about, because day to day, like the last however long leading up to this, a lot of us got very, I think, not complacent necessarily, but it's kind of day in day out, like the humdrum, right? And I think we're all probably guilty of that at some point. So this kind of gives you a chance to step back and say, well, what is important to us, and if these things are important to us, well, let's make sure our customers know about it.
Well, I also think it allows you to like see who's really going to win in situations like this, right? Because there's a lot of people that are super negative about whatever's going on, and it's, I think you figure out who's going to win and who's going to lose just from that alone, right? Like if you see a lot of people posting negative pieces or excuses, why post an excuse or a blame game at this point when you have an opportunity to actually build brand loyalty, like you were saying, with your customer base instead of whining, basically, right? And so like I'm not trying to undervalue what's going on. It's extremely important to be cognizant of the world and things like that, but like do those things behind closed doors. Don't use that opportunity to mope and grope to the world about how your business closed when people want to associate around positive people that are going to positively affect their world and their days and experiences and things like that. I mean, think about how many people you could potentially lose because you just bitch about something like that. I mean, it's just, I think you have to be very positive in this. And it doesn't mean that people don't have negative thoughts, but do that to a very close group of people and don't post it online, right? It's the same. It reminds me of like people who post bad reviews and then the business will then go into this rant back and forth. It's like, hold on. You don't have to do that online. You can address it by saying, it's very unfortunate that you went through this. I'm going to call you so we can fix this and then call it a day. You don't have to go through all of those challenging posts back and forth.
Well, and if there's anything that's true, it's the fact that what you're experiencing right now is very little or no different than anybody else out there, right? Like we're all kind of working through this the best we can.
Yeah.
And nobody has the answers. That's for sure.
But then also, if you think about it, it also could be camouflage marketing where like you have an opportunity to get your message out there, but instead you start complaining about everything. And this is individuals. This is people who own a business, who work at a business. This is everyone. Like stop posting negative things because you're going to lose a lot of brand opportunity there when you could be building up a lot of clout for the positive things that you do. And I think that it's incredible the amount of people who are on both sides of, one side doing positive and one side posting negative. It's like, yo, we got to get through this. Why not do it on the positive side?
And maybe that's, some people, trying to get the sympathy votes, we're having such a hard time. We're all having a hard time, right? So that's maybe not the best strategy. One of the things, Tim, you mentioned, talking about inventory. All right, so you have a little bit of extra inventory. You're having issues. You're having trouble. All right, well, with the extra inventory that maybe you're not gonna be able to sell in the next 3 days or 5 days, maybe there's a local homeless shelter you can get away to. My cousin Baxter, he's doing a really cool thing where they've fed, I know the last 3 or 4 weeks, 10,000 workers at the hospitals. And it's with a very limited staff, and he didn't take any of the small business money loans. He's riding with what he has, and they're doing the best they can. But like, all right, here's a chance to give back to the community. And I don't know if there's been articles in the paper or on TV, but I assume there's been at least some positive press for him.
So where do you sit on that of we're doing something good for the world? We are, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, today, April 30th, 2020. And I want to say this in an articulate way. I don't want to toot my own horn to say, hey, I'm donating to donate, right? Or, hey, like I'm doing this to do this. Like, where is that line in there because I think personally, like I'm fine with giving. I would much rather not post about those things. So where is the line of when you should post about those things because it becomes too much right? There are some businesses I'm seeing like they're donating every single day. Like, does there need to be a campaign around the brand around that? Like, hey, we're doing this. Like, where is that line in there that it becomes inappropriate?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what y'all's thoughts are too. But I mean, I think it kind of goes back to like your brand DNA. Like, what have we put out there before this? Like, have we had this kind of giving spirit before this whole coronavirus thing happened? Do people see us as a giving type company, or does it look like a press grab? I think that's, and like, so I think trying to know like where somebody is coming from, where you're coming from. And if you don't have that in your brand DNA, like, well, what is important to you? This is a good time to kind of get with your leadership staff, your team, or your brand personally, and write some things down and figure out, all right, well, what can I try and support in the future? And maybe there is something aligned with what I do and what I'm about that makes sense for my brand.
What advice do you give to the business owners to keep their employees engaged? What kind of things can they be doing, the staff be doing, to keep them motivated, to keep them gainfully employed? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so yeah, I think having it's hard.
Do you give them social media stuff to do, or do they super clean certain aspects, or do they redo their inventory system? But this is a great opportunity to do the things that you never had time to do. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so, and one of the things that I love, I was talking with I can't remember her name, but one of the ladies that works with the James Beard Foundation, and it was up at the restaurant show last year. We were talking about sustainability and things of that nature, and what her suggestion, which I think is fantastic, is she said, well, have someone that maybe they're your assistant manager, your manager, or maybe they're like a head waiter, and all right, you're in charge of sustainability. And so thinking about these things that maybe get overlooked over time, and what can I do to give somebody a new kind of reason to be excited about work when they get back? Maybe they can do some research to start thinking about ways to be more innovative or more creative, and whatever that might be. So maybe it's inventory control, or maybe it's with sustainability, or maybe it's community outreach. So I think things of that nature. I think maybe having a call, at least weekly to have everybody get on and, hey, how's everybody doing? So having kind of check-ins, maybe doing some sort of contest where, all right, everybody at least once a week, and we'll talk about it on the calls, try a recipe out that we haven't done before, and this will be on the new menu when we get back open. And I mean, if you think how cool that would be, is when you open back up, you have a brand new menu, and hey, like, our staff has been solitarily working on new menu items and attaching the items to each cook or chef, and so like that kind of helps give them a little bit of something to work towards. It helps them think outside the box and be creative, because you guys know, like, I mean, for me, like, I'm sure for you too, it's really easy to get kind of caught up in like feeling sorry for the way things are going, or just not really having a routine or things to kind of keep you moving in the right direction. I think things like that can be really valuable.
Yeah, totally. So, sorry, Tim, you got something?
No, I had another question. So I work with a lot of different businesses. I'm amazed at how many people they've developed their own hot sauce or barbecue sauce. They need access to a commercial kitchen, and that's always been very difficult. During this time, is this something that restaurants can do since they have underutilized kitchen space? Is this a way that they can generate revenue, or have you seen any of that take place?
I haven't, and just off the top of my head, I'm thinking I would think that's probably not a bridge restaurants probably want to cross right now, just with having other people in there. But maybe if you have a hot sauce or a spice rub at home, maybe you can work on a new product to add to that line, or maybe it's time, like you have your websites from 1999. Maybe it's time to kind of revamp the website. Maybe it's time to hop on YouTube and look at some new marketing strategies and techniques, and learn about Facebook advertising. And that's where I think a lot of us get stuck and feel sorry for ourselves or find ways not to keep moving things forward. But just because you can't actually make the hot sauce doesn't mean there aren't obviously many other things you can do to help try and move the business forward, so that once this is all over, like I said before, you can kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If you guys haven't checked out Chris's book, do so. It's called Making the Cut. There's something on page 120 of it that I want to read, and I think it's really.
You're muted, Chris.
Chris, this kid is muted. He muted himself. He's trying to talk.
I was gonna say, I like the fact that Zack's book is behind both of you guys. I feel like I should have my copy of Anomaly behind me as well.
You know, there's plenty of copies of Anomaly all up in this room. Okay, so in Making the Cut, Tim, you need to write a book during all this time. So in Making the Cut, I think
I wore the black T-shirt though, so
we all got that look, apparently. All right, so in Making the Cut, it's interesting. So towards the end, it's on page 120, or at least in my copy, because I think this is an advanced copy. So it goes like this. So why do you skip to the end? Well, in the real world, you can't. And it's not even that you wouldn't want to. The goal isn't to get to the end. The other day, I was sorting through my notes for this book as a movie played softly on the TV in front of me. I've always had a fond place in my heart for the National Lampoon's vacation movies. Obviously, I love roller coasters, so I like that too. And I realized there was a modern day remake. That all that doesn't matter. The point of it, and then he goes, Rusty feels like a failure, like he let his family down, and he looks back on their trek across the country that couldn't have gone more wrong, and is ready to just throw in the towel. And there's 2 quotes. They always say that it's not the destination, it's the journey, right? The journey sucks. That's what makes you appreciate the destination. And I think that's so interesting that you wrote this, 5 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. That movie was produced 40 years ago. And it's really all we're going through right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the journey sucks, but figuring out how to get through that journey is so incredibly powerful that it makes you look back and be like, I got this.
Yeah, well, and for sure, and for me, it's not. I own a restaurant right now, but I would like to think if I did still own my restaurant. I'd see it as maybe excited is not the right word, but as an opportunity. Like it kind of gives you ideas, new life, and whenever you're kind of up against the wall, you have to be creative and innovative, and that's when usually the best ideas come out. So
is there a way that a business can constantly evolve to be ready for things like that? Right? I started doing triathlon training to then be challenged so that it would help me in the real world and in the business world. Is there something from a business perspective similar to that you see, that you can constantly be thinking in that kind of way?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot, and I'm not sure that I've made a whole lot of progress.
We don't work out, so maybe you could start that, and maybe that's your answer.
That's why we're all wearing black shirts, right?
Zing. I did an hour bike ride today. What did you do?
I haven't rid the bike yet, but maybe right after this. It should be pretty nice outside. A little windy though.
Please don't ride your bike outside today.
But no, I think I'd like to say yes, there is, and usually the business part of my brain would say, oh, we'll just put systems and processes in place. But yeah, our government didn't even have a way to kind of they didn't really even have anything kind of set up in place. So it's kind of, I think it'd be hard to expect a small business to do that. I would love to see that happen. I'm not sure what that looks like. Obviously, if something like this happens again with a pandemic, because like Tim, you said before, maybe there is a second wave of this that comes in the fall or beyond. At least we'll have somewhat of a roadmap for how things could look and how we can maybe pivot the business in the short term. But I think at least maybe checking in with the team every 6 months and seeing if there are ways that we need to innovate. Thinking about it's kind of like with Blockbuster and trying to buy the whole Netflix, and they didn't buy Netflix, and now Blockbuster's toast. So not innovating and keeping up with the way the world's going. I think just maybe keeping an eye on what's happening out there.
it's not like business is closing and abruptly. It's not things like this haven't happened before. They might not have happened as a global thing before, right? But I think there are definitely scenarios that you can look back upon and learn about it. And so did you just talk about, I'm reading a book. I think you were talking about Netflix. So I'm reading a book right now. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Because I don't read books, I listen to books.
Right.
Because people can't read me reading these words from your book today. That's the most I've read in like 3 years. So
and that's coming from a published author. Scary thought. Go buy an Amelie. It's Jim Collins. You know him, How the Mighty Fall. And so they were just talking about Circuit City, which actually is close to us and was close to us in Richmond, and how all that went down and how these companies fall. And it's really interesting because oftentimes you can hear these big companies that go through what they go through, and you can start to grasp and start to dissect what they've done and say, whoa, they're doing that same thing that I just did. I need to be very cautious that maybe I don't do that. And so, the Netflix blockbuster, like it's all interesting. Well, I think there's obviously plenty of restaurants or companies in general that have made proper innovation or adjustments or finding new ways to be creative and deliver their products to the customers. We just don't hear about them because they haven't been that blockbuster or that Circuit City. But the ones that are, we obviously know about. One thing too I think is interesting is I was down in Puerto Rico back in like November, October, something like that, and for this Culinary U, which is a really awesome program they have down there. And things were not quite back to normal after the whole Hurricane Maria, but damn near close. And the whole economy down there, especially like in the food world, has innovated and gotten more creative than it ever was before. So I see something kind of similar here where building from scratch, a lot of people are. There's gonna be a lot of new opportunities. So if someone's out there looking to invest, there's gonna be a lot of open door fronts. I hate the fact that he said it or thought it, but I think it's true. Where Trump was saying, well, the restaurants will be open, it'll just be different owners potentially. So I think there'll be an opportunity if I've thought about getting back in the restaurant game, and maybe we'll see how it goes. I hate to have that happen at the expense of somebody else, but the reality is that some people will win on the other side of this thing. And again, you're putting yourself in the best position to make that happen once it does.
With that, what do you, when you hear somebody that says they're thinking about starting their own business, starting their own restaurant, what's your advice to them? Do you tell them to hang tight and just wait and see? Or do you tell them if you can get through this right now where everything is really bad, that you're going to come through just fine?
Yeah. So I was having a call. So like I was telling you guys before we came on here, I almost bought a house this last weekend, and I was talking to my dad. He's a financial guy, retired now, but a really smart guy, always has sage advice. And he was saying, well, things are just so kind of up in the air right now. Why don't you just wait out a little bit and see kind of which directions things go? I think that'd be my biggest advice. But in between now and then, like, all right, what in terms of a business, what can you do to move that vision forward so that once there is an opportunity out there, you can kind of jump on it. I think the first movers will and do in a lot of situations do end up kind of winning. So figuring out what that looks like when things get back to normal, I think is a huge first step.
One of the things, so Zack and I received an email yesterday or the day before, but what the comment was, a lot of people in the restaurant industry or a lot of people in business right now, they are so scared that they're so in such a bad spot right now that they don't know if they're going to make it, and therefore they don't know if they're even going to have time to watch or listen to a program like this. So what's your advice to somebody that is in such dire strait right now in the restaurant world? What should they be doing to live another day?
The first thing I would do is ask them, how are they spending their time? Are they watching CNN for 2 hours a day where they could spend an hour watching this? Like after watching 5 minutes of CNN or Fox News, whatever it is you turn on, it's all kind of the same, right? So like I would do that at the beginning of the morning, and then, all right, like I love John Taffer, and he talks about having like different balls on his table, and he only feels successful in that day if he's able to move all those balls forward. So figure out what those balls are on your desk, and how you can try to do at least a little bit for each of those. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a small business, your number one goal is to try to get funding if you can. I think that will be a great opportunity. But then it's the way the loans are set up, and the Independent Restaurant Coalition, which started like a couple weeks ago when this whole thing happened, they requested $200 billion from Congress just yesterday. But the initial loans, the PPP loans, one of the problems is when they get it, it starts pretty much automatically. So if I have a restaurant that's gets this funding, well, great. But now am I not wasting, but am I using all this payroll on people that I can't really fully staff my establishment because I don't have customers coming in. So that's where it gets tricky too.
And it seems like in that case, again, consult with your banker. I'm not a banker. Tim isn't a banker. Chris isn't a banker. But it seems like, or I've heard that there are some deferments available, but then it's like, well, does the deferment, is it going to be there in 2 months because they've already cycled through the money? And so then I can see where it could be very, I don't know, vomit inducing for people where they're like, I want to take this, but I don't know that I should because I'm going to pay people and then I can't do anything. And then another thing that I wanted to make a comment on is, how many hours of media are you watching, right? I do think that everyone should, as a former journalist, I do believe that everyone should be up to date as much as possible on, best practices in staying healthy and things like that. Same goes with not just the world, but also like your health, your family, your business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? I think that you should constantly be spending a little bit of time every week at a minimum and making sure that your best case, you're up to date on those things, right? That being said, you said 2 hours of media consumption. I want people to recognize that how the media cycle actually is created in many cases, right? So have you ever been in your car for an hour-long trip, and that trip, you hear the same song 3 times? The reason why is because these media organizations have recognized through their data that people are changing the channel every 20 minutes, right? Or they're tuning in and tuning out every 20 minutes, which means if you stay on that station for one total hour, you're going to hear the same thing from a repetition standpoint. The more repetition is an extremely important thing in the world of branding and marketing. And so if you watch that thing for 2 hours, you've gone through 6 cycles, which really starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy to scare the living daylights out of you. Same goes if you hear our message and I say the same thing for 6 times over 2 hours. That's an incredibly powerful thing for me as well if I'm just trying to sell you something on this show, right? And so if you continue to consume basically the exact same message over and over and over again, it becomes something, it potentially becomes something more than necessary. And so just be cautious on how you consume things, because if it's more of a negative thing, it will frighten you more because you start to believe it because you've, from a frequency standpoint, seen it more.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to do is if you feel like you're backed up against the wall and the room's dark, the last thing you want to do is keep trying to move further back. You want to try and find new ways to maybe get out of the room. So I mean, the best thing you probably do is go work out, go for a bike ride. I mean, I live a mile from the beach. I'm trying to do that at least every single day. I have to go to the grocery store. All right, well, I'll ride my bike down there. I'll
wash your hands first.
Yeah, absolutely. Spending some time with your family, not just spending time with them, but meaningful ways.
I mean, when was the last time you're seeing ads of people actually say, "Hey, get outside; it's good for you," and you have time to do it? So get out, people.
but I think having a clear head is maybe the first step in making a sound business decision. For sure.
I joked about, and I didn't really joke about it, but like the cleanliness of stuff. From a restaurant perspective, I think that's probably the one thing that people are from a consumer perspective with a restaurant, in a grocery store, etc., cleanliness is the thing that I think most people are probably the most frightened of. So how should in your opinion, if you're advising someone, how would you, or in your restaurants, what would you do to not only clean, to make sure that it's clean, but then to market that you are at the top notch of cleanliness for people? How do you see that going?
I think that there'll definitely be a bunch of probably new practices, industry wide ish, where not bringing in your own chef coat. Maybe we'll have something that you'll put on when you get here. But then in terms of actually marketing it so that people know about this stuff, I would throw a camera in, or different number of cameras, and live feed that on the website,
like a time lapse.
Yeah, like and which gets a little bit interesting, because I mean, there's certain things you probably don't want to show all the time. There's
10-second rule is out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's the
10
thing.
seconds in your house? Damn, Tim, mine's only 3.
That's the thing, Tim. Like, yeah, like maybe you have your dishwasher who doesn't wash his hand in between, certain things that I mean, we obviously, that's not okay, but things happen. But it's a way to hold your staff accountable. It's a way to hold you accountable, and it shows your customers, hey, like this is it.
But is it wrong because they're filming and showing it, or is it wrong that you got caught doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, right? Like, I mean, I look at these things and it's like, okay, like you shouldn't have done that. Like, you were in the wrong.
I agree. I agree.
You teach a class on that.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I teach a surf safe class. And also, if anyone has any questions, I don't know how long we're going for, but I see some people are on here. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down there on either page. But yeah, Zach, is it wrong because you got caught, or is it wrong that you're videoing it? I think, at the end of the day, there's certain honest mistakes that can be made that don't necessarily need to be brought to light. That can be, teaching moments that shouldn't necessarily be.
A mistake is different than a consistent issue.
Right. So then that's where maybe you just show, like, during the rush on the line where the food's coming out, so certain people are being filmed, and they know that, and because of that, like, these are the expectations we have for you, and if you don't think you can meet those, okay, we can find somebody else. But at the end of the day, like, what does a business need to do to survive and create that trust with the consumers? Is that's what's going to be most important, I think, once this all gets over with, is who can we trust? I think we all probably would rather go to a restaurant that we can trust versus our favorite restaurant. If that we maybe can, maybe can't.
Tim, you got a question?
No, I completely agree.
Got it.
I was
Chris,
just looking to see if there was any questions from the audience.
got it. Chris, during a time like this, and someone has been questioning their marketing strategy, what are some things that maybe were on the fence for you that you've started doing more of, and how did you get kind of rolling into that?
In terms of my own marketing, my brand?
Or from a company that you consult with, or if you had a restaurant at this point, what would you have done?
I would definitely show more of, like I said before, the humanity of what's going on. One of the things I've been doing is
what do you mean? What do you mean by humanity of that?
Well, like, maybe share the stories of the farms that we work with. Share this. Maybe one of your employees, like the Canless Restaurant Group, they had, like, whoever the employee is really great at making bagels. Maybe they film a video and you show one of your employees making bagels that is now as a recipe for your followers. That you follow on social media. One of the things I've been doing is, all right, like, I probably should have about 6 months ago, but TikTok's starting to get pretty popular. I don't do a whole lot of actually cooking on my page, so I'm using TikTok as a way to do short form, 1-minute videos on how to make. Last night I did paella and donuts and things like that. So there's a way to kind of provide value, not just come in and get our food because we need you to stay open.
What's your handle on TikTok?
It's Chef Chris Hill.
Interesting. When do you think I can get a haircut?
Well, I saw that. I did see, and going back to talk about media, I saw that the governor,
an elective procedure.
Yeah, and for surgeries and for dentists, I think too, which that's a good sign. I know our areas seems to be mellowing out a little bit.
Wait. Getting a haircut is an elected procedure?
No, you should call it that, Zach.
Yeah.
That's a procedure.
Damn mop on his head.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what this looks like if I go on a walk during this crazy windstorm. So there's more media now out there, and so let me rephrase this. There is more content out there. I believe content is really media, and that is an extension of your traditional media, and that so this is a form of media, if you will. The podcast that you're listening to, the book, that's all media to me, right? Yeah. So there's more media out there than ever. How does someone grab the attention of a user base that they want, that they believe there is a ton of value to provide, but they don't know how to kind of pull them and get them to consume?
It definitely is harder than ever, I think, to do that. There's more noise. Like you said, there's the traditional media that we were all aware of, but there's also, a million Facebook pages or YouTube channels or whatever, fill in the blank. So the first thing to do is like you said, provide value to these people. What does that value look like? And I think you just have to do a lot of it. I've been able to build up a pretty decent sized following for myself, but it first of all didn't happen overnight. And second of all, because it didn't happen overnight, it was constantly putting out new content. What's working, what's not working, what is in line with what my brand values are. What are those brand values? What are the decisions I'm going to make moving forward that are aligned with that, so that the content I'm putting out there, a lot of people go for the low hanging fruit. For the 3 or 4 or 5 years ago is the listicle stuff. I told myself I would never really
like the top 10 places to eat in Miami, Florida.
Right. And I'm not saying that I've done a few things like that. But getting caught in that trap, I think, what's the goal? Is the goal of me producing this content to get 10,000 views or 100,000 views? I mean, my most popular article been
Dear
read
Chefs.
Probably been read, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 million times. I'm not sure, but every single thing I've put out since then, in terms of written work, has come far below that. So if the goal is to hit certain metrics or to go viral, then you're kind of missing the opportunity to actually do work that matters. If you do work that matters over time, I firmly believe that over time it will find the people that need it.
How do you sell that to someone when it seems like that virality thing is the championship moment, when I think the three of us are in agreement when it's not that virality moment is not the championship moment, yet so many of the material that we are grown up with would probably contradict that statement.
Well, when that first article went viral, it was the championship moment. I was like, I freaking made it. Like, yeah, I was on.
You got your own Medium t-shirt. It was amazing, dude.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, medium.com, where I posted the blog.
Yeah, not a medium size. We know that you're a large, not a medium.
It probably was a medium back then. But they sent me a whole package, and I'm at the number one on the whole site, right? And on Medium,
oh, really?
Yeah, I was the number one on the whole site. And on Medium, you can see in real time the numbers, and like I refresh it kind of right in like the heart of it, and it's like refresh it, and a few 20 seconds later there's another 100 views or 200 views. I'm like, I've made it. But
is that still a thing? Do they have?
Yeah, you can still see in real time, and you can see where it's coming from and everything. But then then you take a step back or you have a little bit of time elapsed. Then you realize like, all right, well, there's still the next thing to put out there.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that not getting the same traction. Now, if it does get the traction, it makes for other things to catch on a little bit easier. Like it's been easier for me to get social sharing to whether it's in social media or like through my blog type stuff, because I've been able to gain a little bit of credibility through that. But that happened in 2014. My first blog I created in 2007, I think, and I spelled the name of the blog wrong in the actual link to the blog. So yeah, it's a long road for most of us.
What's interesting too is like, while I'm a firm believer in adoption of a new technology, a new platform as early on as possible, I myself don't always jump on with stuff. And so like, I started the Zack Miller Says podcast way later than I had been thinking about, like way later. Right. And so it's interesting though, because I would listen to other things way back when and had the capability to do it, but I don't always make that move. And I think oftentimes being an early adopter is a great opportunity to potentially get some of those fans. And so
I know for a fact, if I would have started a TikTok page 6 months ago, I'd probably have 100,000 followers on there right now.
Way to go, Chris. Way to not.
Or like I mean, anybody that has a smart strategy. But I said, well, I don't get it, and the other stuff's working, but.
So then how do you be creative when you're not creative? Because I feel like a lot of those platforms, that is the answer, right? Like TikTok it seems like you have to be right. You have to be creative to be creative. And I have ideas on things that I want to do for TikTok, right? Like I want to do things where I have Suit Zack do that face the whole time to like famous moments, right? Like, but I've never done it, right? So like, how do you get creative on something when you're not creative?
I think that's a BS excuse. I think everybody has has creativity in them that they can tap into. I mean,
I don't know that turning an apple into apple juice is really creative, Chris.
Well, Zach, no, but for real, like, just if you hop on TikTok or whatever the next thing is, you can see. I mean, there's people on there that some of them are interesting, some of them aren't. But there's people that are way older than us and the TikTok demographic skews younger than us, unfortunately. So that's another trying to kind of. And Tim, you have kids in that age range
on TikTok. That's
right. So you maybe understand a little bit better than a lot of people, our ages might. But getting in that kind of mindset is hard too. But I think you have to put stuff out there that doesn't work, and then you find stuff that does work, and it's and then like when you have 18 followers on TikTok, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, I remember the day that I didn't have to, on Facebook, like I had my business page, and then I had like my personal page. I remember the day where I felt like I didn't have to share my business stuff on my personal page. Like, oh, please like this, please click. And it was so gratifying because I knew I was connecting with people that were interested and wanted to consume and get value out of what I had to offer. So I think if people keep that in mind, like for me, it happened over a 7-year period probably, and it was like a scale up. But the more content you put out there, the more bad content you put out there is going to allow you to find what actually the good stuff is, right? The more you write or the more you read, the better you become at reading, or the better you become at writing. So I was a horrible writer, when I first started out, but it was only through practice. Yep, maybe I am, but only through practicing and through putting time into it. And then that's like with TikTok, like I had one that kind of did pretty well, like last week one day.
But I think, sorry.
No, but that's only happened because I put out 10 other ones before that in trying to figure things out.
I also think that there's something extremely valuable in being vulnerable as an individual to be humiliated on your material, right? And so like when I wrote Anomaly, the first time I got the first edits, it was like I turned in roughly 59,000 words, 60,000 words, right? And Chris Jones, who I think you might know, Tim. Chris, I don't know that you do, but that's the guy who was my editor. And it basically turned back 25,000 edits.
What a gift!
What a gift, right?
No, I mean,
like, and I mean that, like, people are like, "Oh my god," and I'm like, no, like, that's what I paid that for. That guy, first of all. Second of all, is like, it made it better, and it made my vision get out there. And so, like, oftentimes there's things that I'll share with other people and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this? I want to talk through this." And like, where do you think on this? And so it's almost like your own little like creative mastermind where it's like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And it can be a very valuable opportunity to you if you have, like, I think people are not strong enough to handle that negativity because they're like, "Oh, it's negative." Well, it's not negative, actually. You know, even though that's the word I use for it, it's like, no, this is actually like the most amazing feedback you can get, and it's going to make you stronger. And so take it. And so I would much rather be like, someone be like, "Yo, your baby's ugly and here's why." So then I can go back and fix it, especially if they're like the right target customer on something.
And if it's somebody that you feel like you have like in your corner, like it's actually personal in a good way, because this person cares enough to maybe make themselves vulnerable as well and say, like, "Listen, I don't want to have this conversation with Zach. Like, he's probably not going to like it very much." But is the goal to put out the perfect book or the best possible book, or is the goal just to get the book out there, you know?
Well, I remember one of the times that I had sent you something. I don't recall what it was.
Oh, dude,
you were like, "This was really good." Are you saying good? Oh, you're thinking bad?
There was a different
the other time.
The other time.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that there's only been ever like one time ever that you've actually said.
I was trying to get. Go ahead.
What you basically never said any of my stuff is good. So then, like, that one time when you're like, "Oh, this is good," I was like, "Oh wow, this is my championship moment." Chris Hill finally thinks that I produced something, good enough. All right. What was the time that you were talking about?
Well, I mean, I had, after giving you so much negative feedback, I felt bad, so I had to, Zach, you remember when you sent me a very, very early version of Anomaly, and I started with the intro.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't ask me to make any edits or anything.
Chris wrote the intro. I'm not. I've said that before. I wrote the intro.
I was reading it, and it was one of those things where, and this is how my first drafts are too, where it's like you can't keep reading it because there's too many things that need to be changed. So it took me like 3 hours to get through the first 2 pages.
3 months.
Yeah, I mean, pretty. And I was like, I had to put it away for a little bit, and then my wife's looking at me. She's like, "What the hell's going on? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'll explain it to you later." But yeah, being able to have people in your corner, and to tie it back into the business thing too, like, have people that that you can count on to maybe give you ideas or to help brainstorm on things. Or
I think the 3 of us have done that for each other in the past, and I think it's extremely valuable. Sure. And if out of all of this, I think that's something that many who are listening should start to implement themselves. Find people that aren't just going to be yes men, and that will give you like legit feedback.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if you can see what's over my shoulder written on my whiteboard, but it says, "Real living takes courage."
Oh, that's good.
And I have to remind myself of that, and that's just everybody that's listening. They should live by that as well.
I also think that there are times when people, and I did this to Tim the other day, actually, might even been last night, but you have to like thank the people that have helped you along the way, right? And so don't just, don't do a Facebook post about it, like do real meaningful pieces about it, right? And like, I know the one that I did recently was probably not the most meaningful, but I know it was heartfelt, right? And so it's like, thank the people that have helped you, right? Well, and I think it can be very valuable.
Zach, you and I have talked about before, I think maybe the last time we were on your podcast, even, with cultivating those relationships along the way versus,
waiting for that perfect moment.
Yeah. Or like waiting till now to ask for the favor. Well, now's maybe too late, but if you if you cultivate and you stay in front of your customers and all that good stuff now, for whenever the next thing hits, then they're going to be there for you. And you can call them.
If there was a place where people can learn about you, Chris, is the best place to go to chrishillonline.com?
Yeah, chrishillonline.com. Yeah, my Facebook and TikTok are both Chef Chris Hill, and Instagram's _Chris Hill.
Why do you do that to yourself?
Do what?
Why do you have different handles for different things?
Well, I made a mistake. I did have this is another good marketing thing. So
this is my thing. Don't steal it.
No, go for it. I want to hear what you're about to say. But so I did have Instagram of Chef Chris Hill, and then and I do have the Chef Chris Hill website page. It's kind of a battle back and forth with somebody that that we've talked about that I used to kind of do business with. So it's kind of an issue there. But I did have the Instagram handle, and then I thought I might not only do the restaurant and then chef stuff, but also kind of more mainstream leadership type stuff. So that was 3-4 years ago when I first started writing this book that is getting close to being done now. So that's why I did so now I'm the _Chris Hill on Instagram, but that was dumb. I mean, I had it all kind of lined up, and Zach, you've done a good job of finding for
that it's for that reason, right? It's easy to say, hey, follow me everywhere at Zack Miller Says. That's all the handles. That's the website. Zack Miller Says everything, right? Where instead you have to be like, well, it's Chris_Hill1433.com. My email is
AOL.
Yeah, AOL. Like it becomes very difficult. It's already hard for someone to remember you when they are going to look for you. Right. And now we're trying to have them look for multiple things. It's like Zack Miller Says across the board. That's all you have to type, and you'll see this beautiful mug.
Well, and now I typically just tell people to hop on Google and Google, Chef Chris Hill, and you can find that type of stuff.
It's a good little hack, if you can't get a .com, I don't care what anyone says at this point, like it has to be .com, right? Yep. Get the .com. And then whatever that .com is, align your handles, your social handles with that name. It will make everything so much easier. And then people start branding it. They're like, oh yeah, as Zack Miller Says.
And I'm blanking for anyone that's still watching. There's, I can't remember the website, but where you can type in like a domain, and it'll tell you if Facebook, Instagram, whatever different social outlets out there, if it's available in those. So you might not find the perfect one where they all match, but you might be able to compromise one or two. Anyone, can you remember what that is?
I've never seen that, but that's pretty good. So go to go to Chris Hill Online to learn more about Chris. If you guys are interested in getting a wonderful and extremely short email from me each and every morning, not each and every morning. I'm doing a terrible plug right here. Every Monday at 10:13 a.m. Go to ZackMillerSays.com.
And if y'all did like this conversation, Zach, you and I, we were on your podcast a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
Yeah,
so
we did that. And then the podcast is called Zack Miller Says across the board. But each and every Monday, 10:13 a.m., I give you one of my favorite marketing tips of the week. All you have to do is go to ZackMillerSays.com/newsletter. Or follow me everywhere at Zack Miller Says. Listen to the podcast; it's great. And then
why 10:13?
To be the anomaly.
Yeah, I like Easter eggs. I like things to be different. To be the anomaly. Look, if me saying 10 o'clock, if I can get someone's attention by saying 10:13 instead of 10, then I've done a good job, right? And so those little things that people are like, why do you do that? Why do you wear a jean jacket? Why do you why do you do all these little things? Each one of those little things has the opportunity to get me in front of someone else that might have camo marketed with someone else. So I think in that way.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. And if you guys are interested, actually, Tim, I'll let you give your own plug.
Yeah, Start Wheel. We consolidate, coordinate, and celebrate the entrepreneurial efforts that take place across Hampton Roads. So if you have any news that you would like to share, contact us. We send out a newsletter as well. If you have any ideas for people that you would like to see on the show, let us know. Or if you would like to be on the show yourself, contact us.
In the comments, say something like, yo, Zack and Tim, I want to be on the show, yo. And we'll be like, okay, let's put you, we got a questionnaire for you then. Also, I don't know if you guys recognize that we named the show the Fervent 4. You guys can follow along hashtag Justin Timberlake style and Jimmy Fallon, hashtag Fervent 4, FERVENT 4. What does fervent mean, Tim, since that was your word that you came up with?
A passionate, burning.
Like fervor, right? You have a fervor for something.
Yeah. And so the reason behind that is, I don't know if you guys knew this, and I said this in the intro, but only 4% of businesses ever achieve that $1 million in annual revenue. And we think that more should. And so whether or not you're there now or you're trying to get there, we wanted to give an ode to those on that journey trying to get to the 1 million and beyond. And so we thank you guys for listening to this show. We will be back next Thursday at 11. Maybe I should do it 11:01 Eastern Standard Time, because that made you look up and be like, whoa. So thank you guys for being here today. Chris, any last words?
Thank you guys for having me. Y'all keep up the good work. And if you all have any questions about small business stuff, Tim, Zack, you guys are both top-notch class acts. So you have a lot of great content. So I encourage people to follow you guys and reach out if people do have questions.
Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Until next Thursday, we will see you guys on the internet. I'm Zack, that's Tim, and that's Chris somewhere over there. That way. This is Beard Life signing out.
Yeah.
Peace and pancakes, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day, everybody.